Hey team, hope you're all doing well. Today's topic I wanted to go over what should my heart rate be while racing. And the reason why I'm making this video is because I do get a lot of questions in regards to what heart rate should I be hovering around when I'm racing. And my answer in most cases is focus on the effort itself. Focus on your race. Get immersed in the race itself. Don't focus so much of your time and energy being too overly concerned with what heart rate you're running at. Okay, because when we race, we're racing right around or slightly above our anaerobic threshold. So, to get an estimate, a guesstimate of idea of what type of heart rate you're going to be running at when you're racing, it's going to be right around between 85 to around 92% of your maximum heart rate. Sure, there's going to be some spikes in the race itself where you're gonna get close to your maximum heart rate. But like I said, even when I ran my personal best marathon time, 2:19:35, I wasn't even wearing a heart or wasn't wearing a heart rate monitor. I wasn't wearing a watch in the race at all. And so I think it's very important to like I said, just get immersed in what you're doing in the race itself. Focus on staying as relaxed as you can. Okay, focus on running a negative split, not going out too fast and getting too excited, too hyped up in the early stages of your race. That's a big mistake that a lot of runners make. I certainly made those mistakes earlier in my career as well. And it wasn't until later, the more mature I got in the sport of track and field and in road racing and cross country, that I learned that the effort itself is what matters most, not so much what heart rate you're racing at. Okay, the time to focus on your heart rate is definitely when you're in training. Okay, if you're doing tempo runs, if you're doing your long runs, and you're following the strategy that I teach in my videos and in the running courses and the training plans that I teach on RunDreamAchieve.com, the time to really focus on your heart rate is when you're doing those tempo runs. And or if you're doing long runs, you really focus on, if you're doing tempo runs, focus on running anywhere from around 85 to 89% of your maximum heart rate. And the same goes for if you're doing a varied pace long run. What I loved about doing those longer runs wearing heart rate monitors is the fact that I could aim for about 2 miles at VO2 max effort, and so I could really focus on getting my heart rate up around 175 to 185. And then when I was running steady efforts during that long run, I might be running between 158 to 165 beats per minute. Okay, and then obviously there were other times where I would, increase my intensity up to around my anaerobic threshold. So again, I'd be running around 170 to 172. So again, you want to vary those paces and definitely focus on heart rate when you're in training. When it comes to the race, your focus needs to be not so much on, okay, what heart rate should I be running at during my race. Because there's going to be so many other factors. So your attention is going to be on the competitors, how you're feeling, your overall pace. Those are the things that, especially the things that you can't control, not so much focusing on who's in front of you or how fast those particular athletes are running. The key thing is to stay as relaxed as you can in the race. Okay, the time to be stressed out and nervous, let that be during training. Let training be the most difficult part of your preparation, not the race itself. Okay, this is a big mistake that far too many runners, I certainly made the mistake earlier in my career too. I was way too stressed out, too tense in the, prior to the start of my races. And there's a time where the longer you get into the sport, you learn to relax more. You learn to, even before I broke 220 in the marathon, and running 107.06 for the half marathon, I was totally relaxed in those races prior to the start of the race, and I was confident in my preparation. So that's what you need to be focusing on more so than what should my heart rate be while racing. Okay, again, if you want to have an idea of what your heart rate should be, or have an idea of what it's going to be when you're racing, it's going to be close to or slightly above your anaerobic threshold. So you are going to be running closer to your max heart rate, but slightly below. You're not just going to stay steady throughout the entire race at close to your max heart rate. There's going to be times where, again, even Dr. Joe Vigil, one of the world's top distance running coaches, said when we race, we're running right around our anaerobic threshold or slightly above our anaerobic threshold. So that's why it's very important that as a middle to long distance runner, you learn to get that steady state tempo run, the length and duration of that particular effort. Span that out. The longer you can get that, the better. Okay, if you're training for a longer race, like a 10-mile half marathon, 25K half full marathon, you want to learn to get, start off doing a 2 to 4 mile tempo run, and then work to extend that out to around 7 miles to around 12 to 13 miles. Okay, and again, it's going to be dependent on your overall race distance. If you're training for a mile, a 2 mile, or a 5K, or 3,200 meter, or 1,600 meter if you're in high school, you don't need to be doing 16 kilometer or 10 mile tempo runs. It's too far. But if you're training for a longer race, like I said, a 25K, a half marathon, a marathon, you do have to focus on spending more of your time training at that particular effort, because again, you're teaching the body to become more efficient at clearing lactic acid faster than it's building up. And yes, easy running is still very important, but you can only get so much benefit from running easy. Okay, you're going to build your endurance, you're going to burn fat, but you need to build that strength and stamina, and the only way to do that effectively is to spend a higher percentage of your weekly volume training at a higher intensity. Okay, so the heart rate, again, I did focus on heart rate when I was in training. When it came to the race, my focus was on getting immersed in my effort and doing the very best that I could to run my race, not run somebody else's race and worry about what type of pace they were running at. Okay, and I did the very best I could, especially in the longer I spent in the sport. Got more mature, much more confident prior to the start of the races, and I would just look around and I would see all these athletes just so tense, so worried, so overly concerned, and I would think, man, okay, I used to do that myself, so okay, I got to relax, got to be confident in what I've done in training. And that's my hope for you, that if you're seeing yourself, if you're noticing yourself getting too worried and too concerned and too tense the morning of the race, just give yourself some time to just ease up and relax prior to the start. Okay, smile, joke around, at least don't get so overly concerned with the race prior to the start of the race. The race itself is the celebration of your hard training. Okay, you've done all the hard work. You've put in the several months of tempo runs and long runs and track workouts and road workouts. Now's the time to celebrate. Now's the time to put in, get out there and show these athletes what you can do and be confident in your preparation. Okay, so my advice is to focus on the heart rate, focus on training at heart rate. During training, when it comes to the race, focus on your race, focus on the effort itself. If I would not even look down at your watch, don't worry about the splits. Okay, like I told you, when I ran my best 10-mile time, my best half marathon time, my best marathon time, I was not even wearing a watch. I had no idea. The only times I heard splits was as the volunteers were calling out our splits after I passed like the 10-mile mark, the 20-mile mark. Even when I ran under 220 for the marathon, I hit the 20-mile mark in 1:44:05. I still remember it, and I was trying to tally that up. I'm thinking, man, that's got to be around 5:10 mile pace, and it came at 5:11 mile pace. So I was at around 2:15, 2:16 marathon pace through the 20-mile mark in that race. Slowed down quite a bit in the last 10K to come in at 2:19. But again, I wasn't even wearing a watch. I wasn't focused on heart rate. That was not my focus. So that's my advice to you. If you want to run a great race, focus on the heart rate in training. Don't focus it on during the race itself. Focus on your effort, focus on being as controlled as you can, and watch your pacing. So I hope this is helpful for you. Feel free to leave me a comment below if this makes sense to you. I'd like to hear it, and I will definitely respond back to you. Like and share these videos. I really appreciate that. It helps athletes around the world see these videos. It helps with the YouTube algorithm as well. So thanks so much, and I'll talk to you all in the next video.